Welcome to another episode of the Bro Polar Disorder. Why are you laughing already?
Because, again, you're like waiting for me to interrupt you.
I'm not waiting. I was talking. I wasn't waiting for you to interrupt me.
Like when you say, say Bro Polar.
Bro Polar.
Bro Polar. That's kind of what you're waiting for.
But you echoed that a couple of times before, and we discussed that is to never happen again.
Again, you scolded me.
I didn't scold you. You said I scolded you in the last one.
Yeah.
But I never scolded you.
It was our first Bro Polar fight.
Okay.
Just kidding.
There was no fight. And we have so much.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm trying
guy.
to let you do your thing.
No, you're not. You actually interrupted. We're not going to dive into
look
this.
Look how mad he's already
We've learned our
gone.
lesson. There's so many times that I'm going to have to, that we're going to deviate, and I'm going to have to try to wrench this freight train back on the rails. So
Yeah, it's harder than it sounds, too.
It is really hard, especially.
That's what I had to do. Like the first two were so hard with you sometimes, like on Falk.
Really?
Yeah, because...
Okay. The topic today, incredible story, incredible human, Mad Jack Churchill, also known as the fighter Jack
the man,
Churchill.
The myth, and the legend all in one.
An incredible specimen. He is all that is man.
Guaranteed you didn't learn about him in history class, and guaranteed you wish you did after you hear this.
I could not believe that this person actually existed when you brought this up as a potential topic that we needed to discuss.
Yeah, actually, I owe this to my buddy, one of my best friends out in North Carolina. He had, I guess, shown him to me, like, the story, and we wanted to almost make like a restaurant themed after him because of just all the craziness, like Mad Jack's Burgers. Is what we had originally talked about.
Well, there's so many opportunities to name different burgers, different things. So Mad Jack or Fighting Jack Churchill, not related to Winston Churchill.
Not at all.
Prime Minister.
But this does come into play later.
It does. But he is a World War II phenom. Like literally when Nick says legend, myth, he is all that and more.
Yeah.
And there is so much to discuss. First, there's a couple of things that we were going through and talking about just before we got on this podcast.
I'm going to already interrupt and change one of them.
What is that? What are you changing?
I think it's an important time to come clean that I've relapsed completely. And I'm back on World of Warcraft Classic.
You made that sound like an AA thing.
If you've played World of Warcraft, especially Classic, it's almost one and the same. I literally texted one of my best friends and I was like, it's happened. He's like, no, you relapsed. You were doing so good.
See, I never realized the literal world of Warcraft was so intense and so personal to people.
And it's crazy because the game is not very fast paced. Like modern games, okay? Because all right. So just for all my non-super nerds,
say I've never played the game.
World of Warcraft has been going since 2004. Okay. In its origin, the game was incredibly hard, slow. Like it takes weeks to get to max level. Now, with the current state World of Warcraft, you can do that fairly rapidly. Like, you can get to max level in a day.
That is insane. It only took weeks to get to max level back then, too?
Weeks of game time.
Oh.
Weeks of played hours. Like, this is a long
Which
feat.
is also literal weeks for those people that grind out World of Warcraft.
So, I'm not getting that bad. I do know that. Like, I don't have the time. I work too much. I still want to be. But I'm
a father.
Yeah, you miss it. It is bad. Like, you miss it. And I was trying to play another game, which is a game of the year. Baldur's Gate was last year's game of the year.
Right.
Very well deserved. Great game. But I just was, like, almost missing World of Warcraft. I was just like,
why? And I don't understand that because
I really hate even exposing, but I had to get this out because I just found out. So Chad was like, I told Chad I got back on WoW, and Chad's like, oh, I knew. I was like, who told you? And he's like, Sky. And I immediately looked at Sky's like, you betrayed me like that?
It's such a shameful
It is. It's
secret.
still like, you know, me and my, like one of my Army best friends, we used to call it PT, which stands for physical training. So we could talk about it in person, like, hey, you going to do PT later? And then you're like, yeah, I'm going to do PT
So that
around like 6.
would be on
Yeah,
to your...
people wouldn't be like, oh, you're going to go home and play World of Warcraft. So
I think, well, I don't understand why there's such, I don't know if it's just pure nostalgia or what, because the graphics are not good.
it's just the game is like, especially for 2004, that's like perfection.
Really?
Like, you actually care about like your character and the time you spend in it because you're like working at this thing for a while. Now, like, I can't get into a lot of the WoW because it's just like you can get to the max level in a day. Like,
And you don't really have a connection with your character. You don't build that
I'm not
intimate
ready to
relationship with the graphic.
I'm not ready to continue this conversation.
Oh no, you must.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's a ton of fun. There is a ton of stigmatism behind it. You know, it's funny because I remember when the game came out, there was a game before that called EverQuest, and people were like on the radio would call and be like, "My son hasn't left his room in like 2 weeks." It's like, what in the world? But when that game came out, it took the like gaming world by storm.
EverQuest. Like, does Blizzard make EverQuest as well?
No, it was like another style of like a MMO RPGs, what those are called. Massive multiplayer online role-playing game for those who don't delve into the super nerd world. But no, it was just like the first like game that people were like all like the like upper generations were like, it's like crack cocaine, like
right. Video games are the new. Just
there was like
no.
so many warnings, like don't let your child play World of Warcraft.
Right, it's like the old like weed commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Telling people that it'll like do crazy stuff to
Yeah,
them.
it is funny to go back and watch some of those. The girl who sits at the bus stop for like 20 hours. And then the brother forgot to pick her up from school. I was like, even completely sober, I would probably forget. Like, if it wasn't for Sky and I constantly texting, like, hey, you getting the kids or am I? Like, you just like get to working.
On World of Warcraft.
No, not on World of Warcraft, actual work.
How many times have you forgotten to pick up your kids because you were playing WoW?
Never. If I would have had kids when I was at my prime, it could have been up there. They could have made a commercial about me. But I'm a
Nick, you do have a tendency to
person.
disappear and like grind out a game.
I think. Well, I've been having kind of a, not to get super personal again, but a
Please
down period of like my bipolar is kind of like a more depressive. Besides like and then I'll have like an upward swing, but I do kind of like tend to hibernate a bit away, and so that's an easy game to like hibernate.
Can you just go on autopilot with that game and just?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just. I mean, I've played through it so many times, so I don't know.
I'm the type that Nickel and he'll get me all excited because he wants me to play a game like this with him.
I stopped trying this.
Well, there's a reason.
There is a reason.
He tries to get me to play these games, and then I get in, and I'm the noob, and Nick's got all the armor and all the weapons.
Oh my gosh! I
got all the
restart with
stuff.
you.
Let me finish. No, he doesn't. Even if he had restarted, you already know everything to do by like the footstep. So I'm like exploring the camp or trying to figure out where we're supposed to go. And Nick just completes the first mission and takes all the loot, and I'm still in a loincloth and a club. Yeah. And that's why I can't play these games with you, because Nick's a loot hoarder.
I am not.
Is that a phrase y'all use?
No.
Loot hoarder?
No, like not really, but it does remind me of that meme. Do you remember it going around? It's like when Gandalf like commands that Balrog down in the depths, and then comes back with all new white robes and white staff. Like, he hoarded the good loot for himself.
I looked into Balrogs actually quite a bit, from like the J.R. Tolkien, who authored The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, I looked into a lot of, like, I guess you would consider it lore and stuff like that.
I think everyone would consider it
Giant
lore.
demon.
Not just me. I know we're on this WoW thing, and now it's easy to attack me for nerdiness, but
I'm not even attacking you.
You
I said I delved into it.
what you would consider lore, like I'm some freak.
I've
You
never
would be
used the word
reading
lore so many times in my life until I started playing Dungeons and Dragons with you.
Yeah, that's something that we don't really speak about, so thanks for airing that out.
What? I think it's fun. I am the opposite of a nerd in most cases. And I think Dungeons and Dragons is awesome because it's completely improvisation, role playing. You can literally take it as light or as deep and detailed as you like. It just depends on the group that you're playing with. And to me, it's a great experience.
And that's the funny thing is, like, I don't think I would have ever asked you to play. I don't because I never thought you would enjoy it. And then when I moved to Arkansas, I told mom and dad, I was like, just be prepared to at least, like, I don't even know the word for it, but like give me a pity game where you guys come over and play, because I had a good like friend group that, we would play in Springfield. Now I'm moving where I don't know anyone. I'm like, dang, like at least try. And mom and dad are the exact opposite of people who play D&D.
Yeah.
Especially mom.
I feel like dad should be that type, but
dad literally he made me the nerd that I am and then abandoned me.
Yeah.
And then now he just picks fun of me. Like he picks at all of my nerdiness.
If there was a D&D quest that was like Dune based or something very sci-fi, I think he'd be interested.
But what was funny was that mom, who she's not a D&D player. She doesn't read fantasy. She doesn't read sci-fi.
Any of
doesn't care, doesn't watch it, doesn't read it. None of it.
Super quiet.
Was the most energetic player I think I have ever witnessed.
And what was her character?
Yeah, so mom, just to describe her to people who don't know her, 5 foot, like 100 pounds, very small, tiny woman.
Quiet.
Very quiet, reserved, like the nicest woman on earth, will do anything for you. She was like a orc barbarian who was like 6'5". Like, if you haven't played D&D, you get into these scenarios that are, like Chad said, like completely improv. So, the game goes however you want it to go. So, like, even like interrogating, like a captive,
right?
It can play out a million different ways. It's really however the party wants it to go. And then my job as like the DM.
What does that stand for?
As the DM, it's
the dungeon master. Right?
So anyways, Chad, my dad used to come down to the basement where I'd play on the computer. And I used to play a lot of Diablo back then. And then dad would make this whole he would literally stop at the stairs and he'd go, "Dungeon Master, requesting your presence. May I speak with you?" And it's like, would you stop just telling me? But then he would just stand there and, "Dungeon Master, may I please?"
He lives for those moments.
He's the biggest troll ever. He's the funniest dude on this planet, but he's the biggest troll, man. It's like, you're the one who got me this nerdy, like reading all these books and stuff. So
his comic collection is huge.
Yeah.
But anyway, as you were saying about you can play whatever character.
Yeah, and so she plays like, she was like vicious. She's like, "Cut his head off." I was like, "Jeez, mom." What?
Well, the story actually says there's valuable information.
I don't trust him. I don't trust him. So yeah, now I'm completely exposed. Like all of my real secrets in life are out.
I think it's fun.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, like, it's funny. I think people, again, have such like a prejudice against it, like, because it is nerdy, but it can be applied to so many like different things.
Like it's a definition of
like I'm glad like a lot of people that were heavy, the like gatekeepers of the D&D world were upset like after Stranger Things, because then you had this huge rush of people who wanted to play because they played Stranger Things and it looks fun and looks great, and that is exactly what it's supposed to be, like just like that. And then I was ecstatic because then I had so many people that are like, I'll try it, you know, and it's like, okay, this is fun.
Well, it's like when a band gets big and you've been listening to them for years and now they're super popular and you're like, yeah, but they're not cool anymore.
I mean, even as someone who's an avid nerd, like if you would ask me when I married Sky if I'd ever play D&D with Sky or even tell her I had to tell her I play WoW just because of the sheer like impossibility to hide that. But if I would have been like, you know, doing this with like Sky playing D&D and stuff, I would never even let her know I was that nerdy. Like even loving my wife to the ends of time like I do, like I still don't. It's an uncomfortable subject.
I got her a green cloak to play with us.
It's funny, and we don't dress up. Let me preface that.
We're going
we didn't until Chad got this. That Chad, yeah, Chad's gotten so deep now. Chad's the D&D like fanatic. Like in fact, after the first time we played, he's like, it would be so cool if you could like have like a company that hosted these events for people who didn't play. And I was like,
I'm always about new business ventures and startups, and I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I think people are missing out on the fun that you can have with a group of friends because it allows you to kind of break down a barrier that you may not even know is there. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
And Henry Cavill, Superman, plays it. And he's like
Henry
he's like
Cavill's
an avid nerd of all games like that. He was also The Witcher.
There was like a crazy article I read. I want to say it was from like Business Insider or something about like companies that played D&D like had like noticeable improvements on productivity and creativity and team structure afterwards. And it's like I could totally see that after, you know, like playing, like you do get to know people on a level that I think that you probably wouldn't, you know.
100%. It's a team building thing.
And it gets people out of their shells.
Like, though they like with Mom.
It always starts out so awkward and like quiet too until people really like let go of the I don't even know the word. Like,
almost like the feeling like you're going to be judged for taking on an accent.
Yeah, like once you like and like you don't even have to do all that, but people naturally do it when other people are doing it and having fun. They let go of that like anxiety. It just takes
somebody to break the ice to like get into character, and I love being that person.
Yeah, and Chad like, and that's why like when we play D&D, I black out because it is literally so funny because these situations they get into because Chad is playing a very chaotic style character and having fun and has accents, and
I think that's what's fun is that you can take it the way that you want.
Yeah. Man, I should have just not opened my mouth. Though.
Well, again,
I'm already
like
having
last time or like a couple episodes before, we had an intro prepared.
I know.
And Nick blew up his own spot this time.
I know. in my head, it was going to go much differently. A little bit of karma cake. Yeah. In my head, it was going to go differently. Like, oh, I'll just quickly touch on this.
Be embarrassed, but I am dove in. I'm not afraid to say D&D's fun.
I think that's why people were gatekeeping it so bad, though, is because forever, if you played WoW, if you played D&D and stuff, you were definitely ostracized into a different category of people.
You kind of slunk into the corner.
And since I always played sports, like, you know, I was always like, you know, into like pretty much every season we were playing a different sport. And so like normally you don't see a lot of collision there between the two D&D and like the athletes and stuff. So I would go to like practice, come home and immediately jump on Diablo or World of Warcraft or, you know, and then you go and you would think that you would find other people do that. But since no one wants anybody to know that they play, there's like a dance around the subject.
Yeah.
And until you find out, oh, you have a computer? Oh, yeah, I have a computer too. Yeah, it's a gaming computer. It's not a big...
What kind of games do you play? 3 weeks to talk about it.
They're like, what kind of games do you play? And that answer alone is enough to be like, okay.
Do you partake in a world?
Dude, South Park, I you know, like South Park, honestly, they just nailed it on the head too with their episode because it is like the people playing it get so into it, and like D&D is the same way, so into that.
Well,
like,
and
thing.
You watch the kids today with Fortnite.
I know they would have like that.
Yeah, I think Logan, that your son was.
But now it's
special
cool.
forces.
But see, now it's cool. Now it's super cool to be the ultra nerd at a game because of streaming and Twitch and all these things.
I'm pushing 30. He's cracked. Like, I don't understand. And they like use those cadences and they scream them.
Yeah, and
pure pandemonium.
I'm always like, man, the poor people on the other side of that mic, and so I'll be like, Logan, like, unplug your mic so I can talk to you, and then he'll unplug it, and then on the other side, you just hear all these kids also like, he's cracked, 30. I hit him for 110. Like, he's cracked. It's like, never mind, just tone it down a bit, you know?
They're all going crazy, and but
back in the day, it wasn't like that. No. It just wasn't, everyone, Xbox Live came out, Halo was like a huge, like, everyone was playing. That was like a first big thing, but World of Warcraft had been kicking since 2004, and like, it was like, I guess, like a huge revolution in gaming, but again, not everyone was just so willing to be like, oh, I play 4 hours a night. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's like, that's a low number too. I know say that's that right now.
Number. I was going to say, Nick's that's appetizer numbers right there.
It used to be. Now I'm playing a very conservative amount.
Yeah.
Can't plunge that needle all the way.
War. Well, our man is a war man.
He's kind of like your D&D character. For like previous
one
campaigns.
can only hope to be as heroic.
It is pure heroism, yeah.
Yeah, it is all right, so Mad Jack Churchill, 1906 to 1996, 90 years old.
Dang, I didn't even realize he lived to 96. That's wild.
I read that.
I'm just saying personally, I didn't realize he was that old.
No, I know. I was just... But yeah, he went through a lot. Did a lot. The reason he survived that long is because he's just an absolute force.
You can't just kill someone like that.
No, hard to kill.
Yeah.
So I got a couple of major sources here, okay? Mm-hmm. If I had any more sources, we'd have too much information. First one is Fighting Jack Churchill, an article from Miriam Bibby of historicuk.com. And another one is warfarehistorynetwork.com, the real story of Mad Jack Churchill, a rare breed of warrior.
The rarest breed.
The rarest. Okay, so let's dive in.
Let's let them know why he's Mad Jack. Because what he does is mad.
Right.
Especially for the wars he's in.
Well, so this first line actually really speaks to that. Mad Jack Churchill fought on the front lines of World War II armed with a longbow, arrows, and a Scottish broadsword.
On the front lines against the Nazis.
And these are people with guns.
MP40s, like crazy machine guns, like, absolute, terrible humans.
He's using 16th century weaponry.
He's charging in like a Game of Thrones into a modern war.
He is William Wallace.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He was an absolute hero, and he saved the lives of many fellow troops through his career. And we're going to dive into a lot of the highlights, specifically surrounding World War II. His motto, though, early on, especially like right before the war, any officer who goes into action without his sword is improperly dressed. He not only went into battle with melee weapons, he made bagpipes a prerequisite for battle.
He played.
He played the bagpipes in battle.
Yeah.
In World War II. We're not talking about the 1400s.
There is something, like, I'm telling you, it's pure psychological terror that he wrecked. And I'm going to let you continue with this story. But hearing bagpipes and then knowing, because whispers of this man are circling Nazi, like, units, that this dude is charging into battle. So hearing those bagpipes playing, knowing some dude with a massive sword.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was.
That was kind of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, that was like not bagpipes.
I think the first note was okay.
And then it's really hard to mimic that. I will give you credit. It's hard to mimic that. But hearing bagpipes playing, like picture it in your head since you're not going to be able to sing it outright.
Oh, yeah. So let's dive into kind of his background, then we'll get into a lot of his war stories, which are impressive to say the least. He grew up in a military family, living at times in Ceylon, which is Sri Lanka, modern-day Sri Lanka.
Oh, wow.
And Hong Kong, which I believe is actually where he was born.
Okay.
Because Jack is very well traveled. Mm-hmm. Okay. His name reflects his ancestry of the Anglo-Scottish border and in the Highlands.
I'm loving this.
There can only be one.
There can only be one Highlander.
There can only be one Highlander. And that man is Jack Churchill.
It is,
I'm convinced there's no other Highlander than Jack.
Dude, I mean, yeah.
Could you imagine okay. He had two brothers, Thomas and Robert, and they also achieved fame and accolades for their war efforts.
Yeah, they're just not bred like they used to be.
No. He was educated at the Dragon School, Oxford.
This is making more sense.
King William's College on the Isle of Man and Sandhurst.
This is playing right into the... I'm glad I opened
the Isle of
WoW
Man
and D&D because this is already sounding like it is going to be a D&D prompt.
The Dragon School on the Isle of Man.
The Dragon School makes me want to go there, though. I would have studied way harder if I knew that there was a school called the Dragon School.
Only God can write this story. This is insane. At one point, he drove... This is before World War II, okay? He drove a Zenith motorcycle?
Yeah.
Zenith motorcycle, approximately 1,500 miles. There's differing reports. Some say 1,500, some say 500. But about 1,500 miles across the Indian subcontinent, and at one point crashed into a water buffalo. It's just a different expedition he did on his own.
Man, yeah, I mean, like, he's got to be, like, the most adventurous dude that...
He's like an adrenaline
He reminds me of that most interesting man in the world. You remember those commercials?
Oh, yeah, the
like,
Dos Equis guy?
It would be about him.
And then they traded him in for some, like...
It wasn't the same.
Off-brand version?
Yeah. It wasn't the same after they left.
Not even close.
I'm just saying, like, that is the most interesting man in the world for the time he lived.
I would say this is probably the most interesting man I've ever read about. At least for... I would say, yeah. I would go on to say, yeah, probably.
Let's hear it.
Under the two... So, this is where his bagpipe playing comes in. Under the tutorship of the pipe major of the Cameron Highlanders, he became an excellent bagpipe player.
I love how he's these are my interests, and I'm going to incorporate them no matter where they are. Like, I'm going into war against the Nazis. I'm bringing the bagpipes because that's who I am.
Carpe diem.
Yep.
Seize the day. And this is... So he is in the military at this point, but is before the war, right?
Yeah.
He's a young man learning the pipes, traveling across the Indian subcontinent, already a super interesting character. But upon returning to England, life was too dull, and he left to pursue a career in acting and entertainment.
Wow.
He was in a film...
I didn't know any of this.
From 1924 called The Thief of Baghdad, where he showed off his archery skills. And... in 1939, represented England at the World Archery Championships.
This is making... I didn't know any of this stuff. This is making perfect sense as to
there's
what's
nothing
to
to say other than to just honestly sometimes just get out the how amazing his exploits were. So 1939, that's where we're at. Just finished the archery championship. War breaks out. World War II.
Yeah.
Something about the Germans.
Yeah. Invading Poland or something.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. Jack had remained on the reserve officer list and was called to serve.
Time out and say that was probably the most glossed over version of the events of World War II. Something about the Germans and...
I think the reason we do that is because I think we assume that
everybody
knows
about World War II.
If you've been to a movie theater or watched any movie ever,
yeah,
or read anything in school, you know
Yeah, the events of World
Do
War
we
II.
need to go through the Allied and Axis forces, Nick?
I just thought it was funny. It's like
I don't want to talk
Germans
about
and
the Holocaust.
some
right now.
crazy dude at the helm. Some psychopath.
Oh, let's start at the beginning. So we're going to do
Okay,
a biopic
keep going,
of
keep
Adolf
going.
Hitler now.
Keep
Thanks,
going.
Nick. Okay. It's also, I mean, he did have a mustache too. Jack Churchill did.
You have to post a picture for it.
Yeah, there's going to be many pictures I'm going to throw up on the YouTube podcast for this. Jack was on the reserve officer list and was called to serve again. This time in World War II as part of the Expeditionary Force in France. Okay. He would go on to he would go out on patrol and essentially snipe people with his bow, as it was silent and effective for up to 200 yards.
That's wild.
And what were you saying about he has a lower?
Yeah, they said he used a 40-pound draw, whereas like today's modern bows, are like 70 to 100 for like a compound. But it said like 100-pound draw would have been a longbow in medieval times too. Like, I guess compounds like 50 to 75, but a longbow back in like medieval times, that's 100-pound draw, and it is allowed so that it produces enough force to penetrate metal armor. But in World War II, no one's wearing
armor.
metal armor. So with his 40 pounds, draw, he could, I guess, fly further and more accurate without having to worry about its penetration of armor.
Well, because I don't know the speed that an arrow's coming off at a 40
Fast enough to kill people.
Yeah, definitely. So he was kind of like, he was out on patrol.
He's like Rambo.
Yeah, he really is.
He's like
Actually,
Rambo.
I didn't put that together.
Yeah, I just thought of that.
This is
The
First
dude's
Blood,
really like
kinda.
I know it is. It's crazy.
And this is the only the beginning.
I know.
Because he goes from Rambo into Terminator into Assassin's Creed. Anyway, I mean, I never really played those games, but at one point, his company got trapped after the battle of, okay, I'm going to butcher this because I'm not good with French. L'Épinay. It's L'Epinette. L'Épinay, I believe. Churchill killed the first. Thank you.
Yeah.
I did more Spanish. Churchill killed the first Nazi soldier running at the group with his longbow. He then held off the Nazis with 2 machine guns until they ran out of ammo. Being shot in the shoulder, he led the remainder of his company to safety through enemy lines at night.
Dude, can you imagine? It's like, I don't even know a German name. I honestly don't.
Like a first name?
Yeah, I was trying
Hans?
to. What? What? How many people did we lose? Well, Hans died right off the bat. Sniper fight? Well, he took an arrow.
They've contracted with the natives again.
Who's killing people with arrows?
Jack. Mad Jack. Okay. So then, after this, he's kind of recruited in what I would believe he's recruited into the commandos, which I assume is a special force, kind of the beginning of the special forces for the Royal English Army or whatever. Mad Jack allegedly made it. So this is kind of right before he joins the commandos. Mad Jack allegedly made it to Dunkirk, which, if you've seen the movie, is all about this evacuation from the edge of France, correct?
Yep.
Because the pressure from the Germans was just so intense that they had all these soldiers, all this equipment, all this stuff that they were about to get slaughtered on the beaches of France because they were pressured back. Mad Jack allegedly made it to Dunkirk for the evacuation on a bicycle with his bow and arrows hanging off the back. He bicycled his way through tank fire probably to get to the
the absolute destructive force that Germany was bringing upon that port too is just wild.
Well, the war diary of the 4th Infantry Brigade, which is Churchill's battalion, the one that he belonged to. The diary itself commented, and I don't know who wrote this. I think is it a collective?
That might be just like the unit keeping historical records.
Yeah. It said one of the most reassuring sights of the embarkation from Dunkirk was the sight of Captain Churchill passing down the beach with his bows and arrows. His high example and his great work were a great help to the 4th Infantry Brigade. He's like a mascot.
Dude,
what do they call... I don't even know. I'm trying to go down a rabbit hole on kind of a term that they would refer to someone like him as. But he's like...
He's almost like a rallying cry. Like,
exactly.
That's like, what I was thinking. You see him and now you're inspired.
And the thing is, usually you kind of like add like myth to that and legend to kind of rally the troops, right? To get like the spirits up. Like the myth about this guy is he's going on. It's kind of like propaganda, right? How, like the Germans and the Russians did it all the time. We did as well, but this sniper took out 100 soldiers to kind of say, "Hey, we're winning."
Yeah.
But you don't even have to make anything up.
Dude's just
he's just doing it.
Well, you got to think too. You got all kinds of artillery fire going off. You have bombs being dropped, just machine guns, and you're probably like petrified to continue advancing, but you have to escape. Like you're behind something that you feel is protective, but you have to now walk out into the open to get to another spot.
And here comes Jack.
And this dude's riding down the port with a bow and arrow, slung off his back, and he just let's go, boys. Like
on a Huffy with his bagpipes. So he was at Dunkirk. He's like the Forrest Gump of World War II, kind of. He's like at all the major events, a good one. Yeah. Right? Other than I didn't have D-Day here.
No, he would have
see that. I'm not single-handedly.
Yeah,
there wouldn't be Saving Private Ryan. It'd be like Jack saves Ryan.
Yeah,
like Jack saves Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay, so while in training for the newly formed commandos, though, their special forces, he I wanted to throw this in here. He met Rosamund Denny, and they were married in the spring of 1941. So this is his wife. And they had 2 children and stayed married for 55 years until Jack's death.
Wow.
Another impressive feat.
Yeah.
Just a solid dude. Churchill commanded 2 units in 1941, and on December 27th, they raided the Nazi garrison's stores and fish oil factories in Norway, all while playing his bagpipes. He did play his bagpipes notoriously before going into battle.
I think that's, again, the rallying cry and like the psychological terror that this dude who's almost unkillable, because if units have faced this dude before, it's like no one killed this guy. Like eventually you start believing that he can't be killed. He's charging into battle with a sword and bow and arrow.
And he's already taken around to the shoulder and probably countless other injuries and led these people out through enemy lines at night. Fearless. In Sir John Hamerton's 9-volume book series, History of the Second World War, Churchill in Norway, when they're... Why are you laughing at me? When they raided the Nazi garrisons, encouraged the commando unit by playing the bagpipes. He hurled the first grenade and then charged with his basket-hilted Kleebeg sword, which is like a hand-protected, like the old... like musketeer sword. So he's playing the pipes, hurls the grenade, and then charges in with the sword.
Almost like old school cavalry charges, like the charge of the Light Brigade. Like we're running into certain death, but I'm gonna lead you
with a sword.
Yeah,
he's like rounds, like advanced like weaponry.
Oh yeah,
for that time, definitely more advanced than a blade.
Yeah.
Is hurling past him. He just throws a grenade and goes in with a sword.
I do love the combination of both, like current weapons.
Right,
like he chucks a grenade, then charges in with the sword after playing the bagpipes. It's just, this dude's a time traveler.
He's not hiding behind anything.
Yeah, he's just, and that's the thing is like that's what I'm saying. Like if you keep hearing about this dude leading charges onto your compounds, onto your, fortifications, and he has a sword, bagpipes, and a bow and arrow, it's hard not to start developing some, like, mythological, like principles about him. Like
Yeah, like if there are survivors of Jack's raids, the Germans are like, you'll never guess.
Yeah, and
he was playing the pipes.
Yeah,
and then he hurled this grenade at us, and then the next thing I see, he's coming. He's hitting. He's slicing people up with a sword.
Yeah, and like they're radioing back, like it's a dude with this bagpipes and his sword just killed Hans and Franz, and it's like,
let's fight on the water.
Yeah, they would
yeah, no, like, what do you do to that? What do you say about that?
I mean, that's the thing is like they're probably telling him like he's just a man. They're like, dude, he's killing everyone.
Not after what we've seen.
Yeah,
yeah. So Jack was awarded the Military Cross for his bravery. So 2 military crosses. One for his bravery in the Battle of L'Épinay.
Okay.
Again, probably saying that wrong.
Sounds good, though.
I did my best. It's like croissant.
Yeah, that one sounded good.
Really?
I don't know.
We don't know anything in French. Okay. One for his bravery in the Battle of L'Épinay, and the other one on the Norwegian Nazi garrison raid. And the Military Cross is the second level. I had to look it up. It's the second highest.
Okay.
And the number 1 is the Victoria Cross, which I would assume is like our Medal of Honor.
Yeah, he should have got it.
He was nominated for it, but won a couple of DOS, which we'll get into a second as well. Don't they award these things later on as well? Sometimes.
Well,
after death?
I don't know how. Yeah, posthumously. Like I think a lot of times they'll do. Like I know America does for sure on like Medal of Honor and.
So now we're moving on to Italy. At the landing of Salerno, probably Salerno.
Which I think U.S. troops were involved, like Salerno and Sicily.
Yeah. And literally 3 words. His unit found themselves fighting along American Rangers.
Yeah.
In the frontline infantry, which is not what they're designed for as commandos.
Mm-hmm.
They're designed to be more special forces, right? They're on frontline, but they're still able to push back German advancement. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he did something pretty interesting tactically. It's really dark. Okay. He's got all his commandos. So he organizes his men into 6 parallel columns. And due to heavy undergrowth, he said a silent attack was not possible. So he had them all run into the darkness screaming commando. 2 reasons. 1, to confuse the Germans, and 2, to prevent friendly fire. So they wouldn't just... Which... After I read, at first I read they were screaming commandos like Mad Jack at it again with the pipes, but
again though you gotta think like timing is everything in this battle. So one, like you hear that the psychological effect that it has when you're behind a pillbox machine gun, which you should totally be able to annihilate the dude charging at you with bagpipes, a sword, and a bow. But that hesitation allows him...
Squanto Braveheart.
Dude, it is, man. He, like, charges in a way that allows him to, like, doing those psychological things allows him and I'm not, obviously wasn't there, but the time needed to advance his troops safely because of the hesitation of the fear that is striking. So
if I'm a Nazi soldier and I've heard any stories...
Put yourself in those boots.
Oh, yeah, that's actually really true. Okay. If I'm going up against Jack.
Yeah.
Right. Or on his country's army. And I've heard any of the stories.
That's what I'm saying.
This
like
guy, the legends.
Gotta be.
And I hear bagpipes.
Absolute psychological terror.
Not good.
Dude. Because now you also know he's a commando, like with even more up armor, like more trained troops specialized in this stuff, and you hear bagpipes kicking off.
You literally you got a bad deal,
music
dude.
that's I can't imagine like Germans had heard too much bagpipe playing anyways. So then you get like these bagpipes kicking off,
roaring pipes.
A grenade goes off. Some crazy bastard with the sword is charging in. Like, there's a moment of hesitation for sure.
You'd have to be shaking. Like you're trying to load like the belt into like the machine gun and your hands are just shaking because you're probably already adrenaline up. You're probably super like nervous. You know,
your best friend just took an arrow through the throat. Like,
you're not even sure what century you're in anymore.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
So they were successful in Italy and Salerno. They were successful in all their objectives and took 136 prisoners.
That's insane.
I don't understand how they're collecting so many prisoners. He's capturing people throughout. And that's this next story, which is kind of one of his most famous, is the 42 on his own, basically.
Yeah, goes by himself.
Far in front of his troopers with just a sword. He had a corporal ruffle with him.
Can you imagine the rest of the troopers? Like, where'd Jack go? Oh, he went to charge the 42 Nazis.
You just see a silhouette of a man with
machine gun
pillboxes,
heavily fortified. Did he at least take his bow? No. He just has a sword.
Just a sword, yeah. No pipes this time. He was real serious. Advanced into the town alone. He had a little corporal. He had a corporal Ruffle with him. That's his name, Ruffle. Or Raffel. Not sure. They heard Germans digging. So I'm assuming they're digging out maybe a mortar pit or something.
It sounds very different than other people digging. There's a lot of German cuss words just sound terrifying. So those have to be them.
Oh, those are Germans. So then I was talking to Grandpapa. And he saw the glow of a cigarette.
That's all you need.
Which targeted the location. And one by one, each of their little locations, he was able to, the different sentry posts, he was going up with basically behind them with the sword and collecting prisoners. At one point, he went into a mortar station with 10 men in it, captured all of them, just a sword. How do you do that?
Just pure fear, man. Yeah, I can imagine. I know that they said Berserker Vikings aren't really what we have depicted them to be, but that's all I can really picture right now. Is that bloodlust look in your eye? You know what I mean? That would just be so terrifying to someone who's it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it, man. I'm not messing with this dude.
They had to have heard of him before if they're surrendering.
That's what I'm saying.
That.
The psychological terror had to have been so great that it would, you would defy your orders, and just surrender like that to a dude with a sword. No one had a pistol. No one.
And a mustache.
But yeah, dude, I think
It took 42 in total that night. By themselves. Basically by himself. He just had an assistant, a corporal with him.
Yeah, it doesn't say if he killed anyone that night, but I'd imagine if you're killing someone with a sword, dude, you're just covered in blood too. So imagine this dude with a sword that's covered in blood coming into your mortar pit and you're just smoking cigs and, drinking, whatever canteen you have.
Well, if you see a dude
eating
lead with
war
the sword,
rations, and then dude jumps in the pit and it's covered in blood, terror, and
he just slaughtered a pig.
You're coming with me.
If somebody's leading with a sword, though, because strategically. Throw some grenades in or
also though it's smart though because he could really say whatever he wants. He could say that there's 50 commandos in the woods and they're descending upon you, just drop your weapons or you're dead.
But you know exactly who it is.
Yeah,
if the dude with the sword shows up, you put your guns down, basically. Oh, so he's finally captured though.
I wonder what the people that were with him thought about a lot of this though. The pre-war, you have they're going through the mission and talking. It's like, all right, we're going to leave here like 9 o'clock.
And then Jack's going to go up.
And then everyone like lines up. It's like 8. Like, all right, let's get ready to go. Hey, where's Jack? Jack's already down there.
Yeah, he's on the hill, marching in a kilt before he goes into a Nazi garrison.
Someone's approaching. It's just Jack with a sword over his shoulder and 42 Nazis marching back. Like,
Probably found a bicycle.
If this wasn't such
too.
well documented stuff, it would be such an unbelievable story.
If this were like in this like the 1800s, it would be like if this were
if
even
they made a
Civil
movie
War
about
times.
this, everyone would be like, "Oh my gosh, this is the most unbelievable crap."
But it's and there's photos.
Yeah,
and there's
dude, the
even
guy's
video
insane.
somewhere. I'm gonna try to get the video. It was really hard. I tried to find it earlier, but there's even there's a lot of material out there, media out there to get on this guy. So now as a colonel, this is the story of him finally getting captured, which is also heroic. He's fighting in Yugoslavia. He's moved again. They put him wherever they need him, dude.
Is that like Willie Nelson's like the I've been everywhere? Or is it Giant Cash?
I've been everywhere, man. Willie Nelson is the...
yeah, I know. I just mixed it up.
On the road again.
Yeah.
They both work, though.
Yeah.
All right. He's fighting in Yugoslavia. So...
That second, was out of shame.
Apparently, he's on the hill. They've kind of lost this battle.
Mm-hmm.
And he's standing on the hill playing the pipes. And he's like getting, like, it's swarming around him, basically. He's accepting, but he's going out on the pipes.
On his terms.
He's playing a song called Will Ye No Come Back Again. That's what it's called. On the pipes. A grenade explodes next to him and it knocks him out. He's unconscious and he's captured and he's taken. I'm gonna try this name. The Sachsenhausen concentration
sounds
camp.
right.
Right?
Yeah.
Sachsenhausen. I think I need Sachsenhausen. I don't know. That was more Australian.
Yeah, you lost
We're backing
it there.
that up.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's staying in the podcast.
Sachsenhausen concentration camp. That's where he's taken. But his captors thought he was potentially related to Winston Churchill.
It is pretty,
Who was the prime minister at the time and a huge force for the...
They thought they had a gold mine prisoner, is really what it
Exactly.
was.
But it says he received no preferential treatment. He actually had solitary confinement.
Well, can you imagine that dude, like, even if you tried to give him preferential treatment, I feel like that's the kind of guy that would headbutt you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no, I'm with my men.
Kill
Bam.
me. Yeah. Kill me if you can.
Yeah.
He was, but then he is, at some point, he was chained up with Austrian dignitaries in his concentration camp. So what did Mad Jack do?
Did he lay down and die?
No, he tunneled his way out of the camp and was recaptured and sent to a POW, a prisoner of war camp in Austria, where he escaped again.
You can't kill him.
No, you can't. He's invincible.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, just the belief he was.
This is like better than William Wallace. He's a Scottish, like English, all of that legend.
Yeah.
He walked across the Brenner Pass into Italy, and he met up. There was an American squad.
Something funny that I read
picked him up.
About him was that like he was eating food from like German fields and saying like essentially that they weren't the Germans to belong with, so he didn't mind stealing from them because it wasn't even their food in the first place. He was like stealing food, like picking,
Just eating their food
yeah.
in Germany.
I
Or
think
in
as he
occupied
was like leaving, he was like stealing from farms and stuff. Like, but he's like, "This isn't even your."
I take what's mine.
Yeah, exactly.
So then he's picked up by the Americans, and he's sent.
He had to convince them too.
Yeah, you know more about that little bit.
like when he gets there, like the Americans like find him, he has to convince him, one, he's a British officer, and two, like he's escaped and he's on the run. He wants back in the fight. Yeah. He was mad that he lost so much time fighting.
Yeah. Tunneling out, having to escape.
Because I think he was gone, what, a year almost?
Yeah.
Not to throw you off again, but I think he had been gone for...
That's a number Nick might have, but I certainly don't.
All right, keep going. I'll find it.
Okay, so he's sent to Burma, which is modern-day Myanmar, toward the end of the war as fighting was intensifying in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. So he almost got sent over to that side of things, too. Or he did get sent, but he almost made a legendary impact there. But when he got there, the war had already ended. He was quoted saying, "If it wasn't for those damn Yanks, we could have kept the war going for another 10 years." That's
He just like killing Nazis, man.
I think
he just like killing Nazis, dude. He's a hard man right here.
But also kind of had like a charisma about him. You know what I mean? He wasn't just like pure like, I need to kill, kill, kill. He just had this, he lived up to his own hype.
Yeah.
He was recommended for the Victoria Cross, like I said, but he received the DSO twice, which is just the Distinguished Service Order.
Yeah, he had to convince them that he was an a British soldier.
When the Americans picked him up in Italy?
Yeah. But I'm trying to see how long he would have been out for. I know he was upset that he had missed so much time in the war. His story doesn't even end in World War II.
No. The war is over. But after World War II, he served in the Highland Light Infantry and the Seaforth Highlanders, where he managed to save the lives of 700 Jews, patients, and staff at the Hadassah Hospital near Jerusalem.
Yeah, as a non-soldier.
As a non-soldier.
He wasn't combative. He was just really trying to...
just save people's lives at this point. He returned to England where he refurbished steamboats and continued motorcycling.
Oh, he even served in the Pacific.
That's what I said.
Oh, I missed it, man. I said that. I'm sorry, dude. He went to Burma.
Did you do this on purpose?
Yeah.
I knew it. I knew you did.
Yeah, he would. I can't. Dude, imagine you fight all of like the European tours. You're literally at some of the most major battles of World War II history, and you escape two concentration camp and a POW camp. One in the heart in like Austria. You're in Austria when you escape, so you have a ways of enemy line.
Horrible.
You escape through all that, and you get home, and you're like, whew. All right, send me to the Pacific.
Yeah. What about his wife?
Yeah, dude. Oh, man.
She's just like, this is just who he is.
Jack, don't go.
Oh, you're doing the lady voice again?
You could do it this time.
I'm not doing the lady voice.
See, that's screwed, man. That's screwed up because I had to totally expose my lack of acting
British.
Ability.
Hey, Jack, don't go.
I can't do a British accent. I was just going to do my accent.
It's going to be bloody, isn't it?
This is probably terribly offensive
you
to
see,
British
now,
accents
that's
everywhere.
the thing is because they always say that Americans do that really drawn out. There's like a specific region, I guess, or a class of people or whatever it is that we always do that because that's the easiest one because it's exaggerated. Right? It's like when people do an American accent, they're like, hey, bro, let's get some cheeseburgers and surf, dude.
Yeah, at first you started kind of like a Hulk Hogan, like, promo video. Like, hey, brother.
Hey, brother.
You should do Macho Man. That's what would have been yours.
You're going nowhere. That wasn't very good.
That wasn't.
I haven't done it in a while.
No.
You want me to do Macho Man?
We'll save it for next time. You'll come back. You'll practice Macho Man.
I'm practicing Macho Man now.
Dude, he was a St. Louis Cardinal.
So Macho Man Randy Savage was a St. Louis Cardinal.
He was a catcher.
Oh, that's right. You did tell me that.
Yeah. Crazy story there too.
The problem is I can't blow out the mic. You gotta really scream it.
You just have to almost have an aneurysm the entire time you're talking.
Yeah, I will have to practice that, so I don't want to deal with that audio level.
If it wasn't for those damn Yanks, we could have kept the war going for another 10 years.
10 years.
You know, everyone's like, thank heavens, the war's over. The war is over.
Jack slams his sword.
His glass down. It's like, don't you speak like that around me. Dude, oh, man.
So many lives spared.
Yeah.
He's mad.
Dude, he was like, even like on his raids, dude, he was silently killing like 3-4 people before he even started like his like.
Just as a warm up?
No, like he would like go, dude, I read this one. I don't even know where the source is from, but they were saying like almost like he enjoyed like the thought that he was killing these people with a longbow instead of a gun, almost to be like, I'm so much better than you.
That I can use rudimentary weapons.
Almost like I can beat you in any way possible, so I'm gonna pick the way. That was I don't know.
It is impressive and it's smart if you're good with it. You know
so then,
I mean?
So did he just like after all he saves the people?
Saved the 700 Jews, patients, and staff, a mix, in the what I believe is the Hadassah hospital near Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. Returned to England. Says he joined the Army Apprentices scheme, which I'm not 100% sure what that is.
I don't either.
But and he got into refurbishing steamboats and continued motorcycling.
My man.
Got a few more. According to his son, he was an unassuming man and peace-loving.
I think I read a quote from him like about smiling. Okay, you got it.
You can say it.
No, I mean, I don't know. I was just reading over one of the sources before we did this.
Oh, you want me to say it?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't have the exact. So.
Oh, people are less likely to shoot at you if you smile at them.
Which then made me think, like, he just played the bad fight. Now I'm thinking he's got this big old grin on his face.
He was in his happy place.
Because at first I'm thinking, like, pure war, bloodlust in his eyes. Like,
right, anger. You think
guttural yell, like, oh,
I think he was happy. And
yeah,
like,
dude, like, he's having the time of his life, man.
Well,
just
how can you be mad? He's taken out pure evil in the Nazi.
I'm all
Nazi
for
Germany.
it. Like, yeah, dude's a literal living legend, man. So
there was a crazy story about him that he was just kind of, I don't want to say unhinged, but kind of off the wall, like out of left field. And he's kind of done all that. I mean, that's been pretty true for his whole story. But that he would fling hit, like, this is when he's like way removed from the military.
dude, it does say like remarkable film footage, not to cut you off, shows that both the raid and him playing his bagpipe afterwards.
Yeah, he would play it on the deck.
We have to find that.
Yeah, I will. He would play the bagpipes on the deck after like on a ship or whatever after a successful raid, and they would all dance to it.
It's kind of like I think it's the U.S. Navy. All right, keep going.
Well, it said, this is a story from his son, that he would fling his briefcase out of the window of their passenger train. Just fling his briefcase right out the window of a passenger train, just to surprise them. But they didn't know that he had timed it to land in his own garden. He would just do it for no reason. Yeah,
Dad told me this. So Dad was on, obviously you know this, but everyone doesn't know this. Our dad was a naval submarine officer.
Well, I didn't become self-aware till I was about 16 after climbing them stairs, so.
I don't even know where you came from with that, so I guess that's how it is.
What are you talking about?
So Dad, naval submarine officer, he said when they'd return to port, like submarines are so secretive they can't talk about their operation.
Right.
But as a way to kind of like brag, they'll like fly the Jolly Roger pirate flag or a black flag as they're coming back into port to essentially say like we just did some crazy stuff and we can't talk about it, but we're very happy.
Did they often do that?
Dude, the U.S. Navy does it. Dude, they will fly like a Jolly
Did Dad
Roger.
say they did that?
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. But
That
I'm
I
saying
did
like
not know.
playing the bagpipes after the battles, essentially like flying
That's
that
the
Jolly
thing,
Roger.
yeah.
Like
So he was the hero of a comic strip and the
see
subject,
that.
obviously, of many books. But he was
he needs
the
a
hero
modern
of
comic, dude.
Yeah, he does. It was kind of
needs
an
it.
offshoot comic. Though I
And then
didn't
Frank
really
Miller
mention
needs to
much
do
of
it. Frank Miller, you'll know he did 300. He also wrote The Dark Knight, like a very dark as
Right.
But if they filmed it almost in the stylings of like that kind of like cell shaded like 300 look of him going in about not as cheesy it's not cheesy because when it came out it was actually really cool, but
You can
like
even
it's got a bit
Tarantino it too. As bizarre as he is, the way that they did like Inglourious Bastards, like you could.
Dude, he reminds me a lot of the characters from that. Like
I'm sure they ripped some stuff off of that.
I mean,
This
think
is a
about it, he's,
real
like,
person that
so
is better than all of the like made up war figures. Even Captain America. Think about it. He's a better like anyway, Espen Lazarus, the co-founder of the Norwegian Royal Explorers Club, said, "I would rate Jack Churchill as one of, if not the most inspirational and impressive people we have researched in relation to the book," which he was writing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
you know, Zenith Motorcycles is like,
yeah,
free
1,500
sponsor.
miles.
And whoever, I don't, it's not Schwinn, but whoever's bicycle he took to Dunkirk,
Huffy.
they really need to like find out so they could start like a campaign about it.
What would it be?
I have no. I said
It would
Schwinn.
be is that French? Think about it, because that's in France.
Maybe, I don't know, man. You're asking too
With
many
like a
questions
basket
now.
on it.
Dude, if there was a basket, I would lose my mind.
There's a lot of stories of him like taking around or like having a gash or like having blood smeared across his face, and the soldiers would be like, "Oh, hey." He would just show up on a motorcycle, and he got off the motorcycle, and his other troops were like, "Hey, what happened to your face?" He's like, just nonchalantly, German machine gun. Thanks, Jack. Thank you.
What happened to the guy? That's whose blood is it, Jack?
Oh, that's not my blood. I used him as a shield. I picked him up.
You really need to watch the movie Sisu. And anyone, okay, it is
Oh,
graphically violent, so it is
Yeah.
like what we like to call like a, I guess like a pretty rough movie.
Is it?
It's just very it's gory because of the violence. but
gratuitous.
It is gratuitous, almost in like kind of like
I get why it's gratuitous though, because it has to deal with.
But it's almost like this. Like, so the dude is running on the run from the Nazis and he's by himself, but he was like an old commando. And it sounds just like, but
How many of these things, now that we're looking at how many of these
I know, I was
stories
just thinking
have
that
been
as we were
ripped?
listening, because Sisu, I think, came out last year, but it was rated so well, and I think it was more of an independent movie, but it sounds just like, it's literally like one dude versus like 40 Nazis.
They just took a character and they put him in a different location.
They did,
but
because,
gave him
like,
a same skill set.
like-
Does he have a mustache?
It's the same thing. Like the dude literally, I don't remember, but the dude literally like the lore, like they call back.
Isn't he Norwegian?
I think he's like Finland or something. But anyways, he calls back, like the Nazis call back, and they're like, it's just this one dude, and they're like, leave him alone, bro. Get out, get out.
Like, we've heard stories.
Dude, he's the John Wick of World War II.
But he also plays bagpipes. Not even
He's
John
not
would
John
do that.
Wick. Yeah, dude, this guy is insane.
He's better.
This has been one of my favorite like topics to cover because
Super interesting guy.
I had already read a lot about him prior to doing this, but that was years ago. So a lot of it had been like lost. So getting to reread some of these like exploits and like
I remember when I was doing research on it, I went through the first 3 paragraphs, and there was so much to unpack because
yeah, you texted me. You're like,
I have like a
you were
full
afraid
page.
we couldn't compress because this is very compressed. Like I
This
really
is very
highly
compressed.
recommend people going and reading about him, and that's what I want for a lot of our episodes. Is we're giving you, because we don't like it to go much past an hour.
Right.
We just feel like for us, that's a long podcast. Personally, maybe we get feedback that says otherwise, but as our first 4 episodes, 5 episodes, whatever, like we're comfortable at the hour mark as like information wise.
We want to encourage you to dive in deeper.
That's the thing is I want people to do like what we do. And it's like, whoa. And that's a really crazy thing I've never heard about. And then they look it up. Like we kind of like, what is it? Not pilot, but when you demo it to like a new show.
Pilot.
Yeah, so they film the pilot and then they show it to like only the producers and like a test. Mom and dad was our test audience.
Yes.
And that was my favorite thing is like dad's like looking up all this stuff we're talking about.
Like Mothman or Falcon
he was
Monster.
so into like looking up more of the info and I was like, yes, like that's exactly what I wanted out of it. And, you know, like the humor's fun too, but getting to learn things that you just never would know about and they're just so crazy and out there is a lot of the fun for me too.
Yeah, I'm more on the humor side of things.
No,
and
I know,
Mom
but you've gotten to learn a lot. So when I introduced this topic to you as like a possible topic to cover, you thought I was joking.
Yeah.
You're like, would you stop? And I was like, no, I'm serious. This dude really lived. He's like, he had a sword and a claymore. Like, that's it.
I thought you meant a claymore.
Yeah.
Well, it
the
was
best
a claymore.
part, yeah. He's like, a claymore attached to his chest. Like
and just kept
the anti-personnel mine, like the claymore.
I thought there's no way this is real because, like, how is he blowing people up just with claymores off his chest?
Well, fun fact that claymores only explode outward, so he would have been able to. He would have had some damage, but
I know that. But the concussion, right? There has to be a concussion.
It explodes outward. I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit if it's
there's got to be but there has to be. But I know that it explodes outward.
Front-facing enemy. That's what it says on it.
Nick loves to do this to me. Give me information I already know, but to convince everybody I don't know it.
I don't even do that.
You just did that.
Well, I've been in a weird state since I accidentally exposed myself.
He used a sword,
about WoW and D&D. So
I played D&D with you.
I know that.
It was really nerdy, though, Nick.
See, I feel like it's like you're like reaching out a hand, like. It's like, I'm doing it too, so it's okay.
We're all in this together.
Yeah, like, you don't have to be alone and ostracized. Well, I feel like you're probably going to be the cool one of the podcast. And
no, I don't think so at all.
It's all right.
I think you are. I don't think either of us are going to be cool.
Well, I already know I'm not, so that's what I'm hoping for you.
Well, I don't think I am either. I don't think people will like my personality.
I can see that. So, Mad Jack Churchill. Wait, what question do you have for them, though? Like... Is there going to be, like, we've given a question each time for something to reflect upon?
I don't know, Nick. Why don't you dig deep and figure out a question for this?
I thought maybe you had one generated. You're on the spot. Okay, so.
Well, I guess if there's a question...
Do you think psychological...
I think, yeah, I mean, it's hard to ask a question because it's like, okay, if you hear the bagpipes and it's coming, what are you going to do? You're going to crap yourself. You can't take this dude on.
And you can't put yourself in these, like, stories anyways. This is such an outlandish, like, you could say whatever you want. People say this all the time, like, oh, if I was there, I would have quickly got out of there, or because you're not in the moment paralyzed by fear, or paralyzed by anxiety, adrenaline, whatever.
The question is there another figure that you've read about or know of that really did live up to the legend? Like, it wasn't just like, oh, William Wallace was this, this, and this, but you don't really know. But, like, somebody that, like,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
documented that this person really did live up to all of these crazy stories. Is there another person, like, even if it's not that extreme, somebody that you personally know or somebody that you know in history or have read about?
Yeah, I think, like, well, the problem too is, like, with a lot of these stories is that they did something heroic or good, but to make a movie they have to expand upon it, you know, like they have to add stuff to the heroism and they have to, you know, incorporate stories, and it almost feels like a tall tale. Whereas the story itself needs, like, compressed for the movie, you know, like he did so many crazy things.
It would be
hard for the audience to stay with you that you believe.
Well, you'd have to do it like the way they filmed Forrest Gump, but with the intensity of something else, because he really was at all of these major things.
Yeah, he'll need Spielberg.
You'll
need Spielberg for this one.
Yeah, they just clipped it.
Maybe Ridley Scott. But yeah.
Ooh, or Michael Bay.
No. we're out. Not against Michael Bay movies, but if you're going to capture, like, Michael Bay is what you think of when you're reading this story. It's so crazy, outlandish, explosive. Like, it almost reads like
I think Meryl Streep.
There you go. Meryl Streep is Mad Jack.
No.
That's what you said.
I didn't say that at all.
That's what you implied.
Not at all. I think he looks a bit like a... I mean, all I can think of is Inglourious Basterds with the Brad Pitt type guy, but he does maybe like a Jeremy Irons, like a younger Jeremy Irons. He looks a bit like.
Yeah, but dude's like 40 though. I mean, how old is he? Because he's born 1906. This is, I mean, so what? When did he go into battle? So he's at least like
35,
33 to 35, 39. So he'd been what, 33?
He's a young dude. Needs to be a young dude.
Yeah, but like he's fighting. I don't know, man. And then the pictures of him, he looks like a hard dude, like someone who's killed lots of people.
He's played the bagpipe.
He's killed lots of people
on the battlefield.
You could just tell by the look in his face. It's like he
is shell shock.
Dude, the guy went into hell, faced it head on, and then just charged, which is crazy.
And they were scared of him.
Yeah, with machine guns.
Crazy stuff. All right. Well, if you know of anybody, think about that. Comment that if there's a place for you to comment it.
Yeah.
And
there better be.
There will be. I'm just saying. I'm not holding expectations over our head.
It was the intro. I blew it.
You're fired. All right.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.